I personally like to measure is my waist. You don't suck in. That's going to totally throw you off. Yeah. In fact, you exhale. So you let the whole thing hang.
Let it all out.
Yeah.
Let it all out.
Yeah, let it all out.
Just like Frozen, let it go.
AdventFit is a podcast that has a holistic approach to physical, spiritual, and mental well-being. In each episode, we share productive ways to live a healthier and happier lifestyle. Unlike other podcasts in this space, AdventFit gives you a comprehensive approach to fitness without the fluff for the everyday Christian. Measurements.
Yes.
Measurements.
Yes. Measurements.
How do you measure up? How do you track your progress?
How do you?
That's what we're going to be talking about today in our episode of AdventFit. You know, I personally like to take my measurements. This is something I started doing when I got serious about my raw food diet, because I wanted to make sure that if I was going to be in a raw diet for such an extended period of time, that it was actually accomplishing something. So that's the only way you could tell that is if you track your progress. So each and every week, most weeks at least, I was tracking my progress by doing a couple of things. I was stepping on the scale and measuring my weight.
Yeah.
I would also measure my body fat percentage. So I would also measure like around different parts of my body, like around my chest, around my waist, around my legs, things like that. Tracking all these different things, tracking my muscle growth, that helps me. Because the thing is, if you're dropping weight, the question is, are you really building muscle?
Yeah.
Are you really growing?
I use a scale for that. I'd actually measure.
That scale is the worst.
No, not the Renfo is an amazing scale.
Terrible
I'm not
scale.
trying to advertise unless you want to sponsor us. Then, but it works for me though.
I mean, it does measure some stuff, but it does say that there's like a 5% radius leeway, which 5%. That's a big difference. 5%. That's the difference between like seeing abs and not seeing abs. 5%.
But you can still see, and you use the scale as a reference.
The scale works well if you're being consistent, like in terms of you measuring, you're stepping on the scale.
Yeah,
the Renfo scale, because the Renfo, for those people who don't know, it like shoots like a signal through one leg, goes up your body and comes down to the other leg.
There's plenty of different scales like that. We're not going to keep mentioning this name because they're not paying us. So there's plenty of different just body fat scales that measure all those stuff.
There's other ones that you put your hands on it and stuff like that, and it takes those measurements. But the point is that you want to find some way that's going to track your progress, take your measurements.
Yeah.
Some people have 3D scanners.
You don't want to do it too often though. Like you don't want to do it every single day.
No.
I think that the most is once a week.
Yeah.
And the most, and I guess the most, not the most and the least should be once a week.
So
just once a week.
Well, I know people who take measurements every single day, and it becomes an obsession. That's dangerous. Particularly, I'm talking about like when people that step on the scale every day. Now, if you want to step on it, it's not a bad thing. But if you're getting into your head,
it fluctuates. So
it's gonna fluctuate. Like maybe you just had a little extra food that day.
Yeah.
Maybe you just didn't poop it all out. So like you're gonna see that scale number being higher, and it's gonna get into your head. It's gonna discourage you. So that's why once a week is a good amount of time.
And the best time to measure is in the morning. Just after you use the bathroom, just measure.
That would be my routine. I would do it. Let's say on Sundays.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I would empty out the system, get on the scale, take my body measurements, and do it that way.
Yeah.
Some people do, like I said, 3D scanners, where they would stand on a scale. It would rotate their body. The thing would scan them.
More money.
They have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, here at AdventFit, we don't have a lot of money.
Definitely. I'm a poor righteous teacher.
So you can go to adventfit.org support or donate something in the description. You can help us out.
Yeah.
But a simple way to do it is a simple tape measure, which you get at like Rite Aid, or you can get an acu-measure. You can find it on Amazon. And I could put a link in the description.
Not AccuWeather.
No.
The daily forecast.
No.
Okay. Just checking.
Your daily forecast is fat. No. The acu-measure is a like a thing that you use to pinch the skin fold.
Yeah.
And then the fat underneath the skin. Talking about measurements, Do you know what women in Britain think is the hottest part of a guy's body?
I don't think this is AdventFit appropriate, but I do not know.
It is actually the chest.
Interesting.
A man with a bigger chest is more attractive to British women. So if you're ever going to England, make sure you do some good push-ups and some good bench presses. So if you want to measure your chest, best way to do it is to take a tape measure and wrap it around your chest and make sure it's not slanted or anything like that. Make sure it's level with the ground and it crosses over your nipples. And that's the best
we're
way.
Really getting in the PG-13 range right now.
Well, I'm saying, so
Parents strongly advised.
With that being said, the way you properly measure yourself, you got to take off your shirt first.
Okay.
In fact, if I can show you guys right now.
Oh, God.
No. But you have to take off your shirt, obviously, because clothing is going to add to your measurement. So you take off your shirt, you measure, you take a tape measure, you do it over your nipples. That's the best way to measure. I personally like to measure with centimeters because it's smaller. So you get more, you can be a little bit more specific rather than having to go like an inch and a half and whatever, even though no one have an inch and a half chest. That'll be a very, very tiny chest.
Yeah.
The next part I personally like to measure is my waist. That's probably the part of people that they want to measure the most. And so the way I do it is I do 1 inch above the belly button and I wrap it around, again, level with the floor. You don't suck in. That's going to totally throw you off.
Yeah.
Don't suck in. In fact, you exhale. So you let the whole thing hang.
Let it all out.
Yeah.
Let it all out.
Yeah, let it all out.
Just like Frozen. Let it go. Let it go.
and then you measure like that. In fact, if you want even more way of trying to avoid inaccuracies or sucking in, you can even lean over to the side. That really pushes everything out. So you lean over to the side and you take the tape measure like that. The next part I like to measure is my thigh.
Are we going all down your body? This is.
I'm being specific here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
So the way I do it is that I measure from my hip bone to my knee bone. Sounds like a song.
The knee bone's connected to it.
And then I go halfway, the halfway point, and I measure around the thigh at that spot. Again, level with the ground. The next part I measure would be the calf. And I just go where the widest part of the calf, and I measure that part. Then I measure my bicep.
So again, how would somebody measure? Like, what would they would you use a tape measure in this, the widest part?
Yeah.
And
so, I said for the chest, it's around the nipple. Around the waist, it's 1 inch above the belly button.
Or they can use a caliper, but that's some.
No. This is the caliper is different.
Yeah.
I'll get to caliper in a second. So right now we're just measuring the size.
Okay.
We're not measuring body fat. We're just measuring the size.
Yeah.
So for the leg, it's the halfway point. And again, I like to use a tape. Like to use a tape measure to actually measure where is the halfway point, because if you don't, then you're gonna be going different spots.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be confusing for yourself. For the calf, the widest part of your calf. For the bicep, measure around the widest part of the bicep. And for the forearm, the widest part of the forearm. With the bicep, it's not flexed. And then I measure it one time when it's not flexed, and then I measure it one time when it is flexed there. So I do 2 measurements for the arm. And that's the way I do a tape measurement of just size. Now, if I want to measure for a body fat, I use the caliper, the acu-measure caliper. And the way I some people do many points, like 7 points. I keep it simple. I just do 3 points because I don't got all day to be standing in front of the mirror, pinching all over my body.
Yeah.
So I just do 3 points. I do chest, waist, as well as thigh. Those are the 3 points for that, and just gives me a good idea.
What you use.
So for the chest, what I do is from the top of from the armpit to the nipple, halfway between those two. halfway between the armpit, the top, the crease of the armpit to the nipple, halfway. I flex my chest and I pinch the fat around there. How much fat do I pinch? I pinch 1 inch, 1 inch of fat. I pinch that together, and then I take the caliper and I squeeze it on that fat, and whatever. And when the caliper goes click, then you know that that's the amount of millimeters of fat that you have. You have to stop at the click. You don't keep going more than the click. If you go more than the click, then you're cheating. Yeah. There, you do it slowly. You pinch slowly, and when you hear the click, then you immediately stop. What I do and what many other people do, they do it 3 times, and they do either the average or they do the one that's most consistent number. And the same thing goes for the waist. I do 1 inch away from 1 inch either to the right or to the left. Because I'm a righty, I go to the right. 1 inch to the right from the belly button, and then I flex my abs and I pinch 1 inch of fat with the caliper afterwards. And then I do the same thing with my leg. What I do is I put my leg up, like put my leg up on a chair, and because I'm moving my leg up, it's already flexing. Yeah. And then I do the same thing, halfway point, and I pinch an inch. I pinch that inch together, and I use the caliper to pinch on that skin fold, and I see how much fat is there.
Should you actually be flexing?
I've actually done both. I've done it both where I'm flexing and not flexing. And for the most part, it's been the same. Okay. From what I've seen online from people, they recommended flexing just because it helps to separate the muscle from the fat. The idea is that you're not pinching muscle. Yeah. And because you're flexing, the muscle kind of contracts together and it just leaves the fat to be easier to pinch. That's why. But when I've done it both ways, it's for the most part the same. But it just makes it a little easier to pinch the fat in isolation. So when I pinch the chest, the waist, as well as the thigh, I get 3 measurements. I put that onto a website, which helps me to measure. I'll put the link in the description to the website so you guys can to know where to put it in. And so it helps, and I put my age, I put my weight, and then it gives me a general sense of where my body fat percentage would be. I actually think it's actually a very convenient because I could track my progress. I can say, well, I have this amount of millimeters in my chest on month 1. Now in month 2, look, I've gone down 1 millimeter. So I can actually see where in my body is holding the most fat in a very objective way. Instead of just looking in the mirror and be like, oh, bad, look at this right here. I can actually tell by the numbers what part of my body is holding fat more than others. And what part is moving at a faster pace in terms of burning fat. Once I put those things in, I put in my age, it gives me an idea of where my body fat percentage is. So what kind of body fat percentage would you be looking for? Okay, woman. What would be a body fat percentage for a woman? And let's start off with the high end. Anything more than 40% body fat is high body fat risk for a woman.
40%, that's a lot.
Yeah. So remember, you are 100%. If 40% of your body is fat, that's dangerous. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are many people who are even more than 40%. There are people who are the majority of their body is fat. And that's a scary level. But the moment you have more than 40% of your body is fat, is dangerous. From 30 to 40% is considered excess fat. 22% to 30% for women is considered moderately lean. All right, so that's fine. You're moderately lean. 18 to 22% is considered lean. All right, you're that's considered the people that are very slim, the slim women. 18 to 22%. And from 15 to 18% is called ultra lean. All right, that's what the people are like, you skinny, right? But anything less than 15% for a woman is considered low body fat risk. Now
you can be fit and just have a little bit of body fat. That's
what I'm saying. That's why you want to be within the 15 to 30% range for a woman. You could be slim, fit, but you have a healthy amount of body fat because we need body fat. Yeah, body fat is important.
A woman need more than men.
Yes, exactly. That's why you don't want to, as a woman, to go less than 15%. Yeah. Now let's talk about men. So for men, 30% and higher is considered high body fat risk for men. Excess fat will be 20 to 30%. Moderately lean, which is where you want to be or lower, would be 12 to 20%. Lean would be considered from 8 to 12%. Mm-hmm. It's within this time, 8 to 12%, where you start to really see some definition for men.
Yeah.
And between 8 to 5% is considered ultra lean. Mm-hmm. That's where you start being like very ripped as a man. But anything less than 5% is considered low body fat risk. Yeah. That is like some anorexic stuff there, where you start seeing your ribs and things like that. That's the part that you want to avoid.
It's like The Machinist, but what's his name?
Christian Bale. Yeah. Scary, dangerous stuff. So these are stuff for you to keep in mind. So as a man, you want to fall within the range of 5 to 20% body fat. Now, what does those numbers mean? It means something for you. I cannot compare my body fat percentage to Jeffrey, to you, because what 7% body fat for me will be different than 7 body fat percentage for you. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, our bodies are composed differently. We have different amount of muscle. So a guy who has 7% body fat and they don't have a lot of muscle, they're not going to look that amazing. Yeah. But whereas somebody might have a lot of muscle, but only 10% body fat, technically you have more fat than the slim guy. But because you have a lot of muscle, wow, you see all the definition there. So you see that bulk there. Don't look at body fat percentage as something to compete with somebody else. Body fat percentage and taking your measurements is not competing with the next person. It's competing with yourself. Mm-hmm. So I need to know for myself what amount of weight I want to be at, what amount of body fat percentage looks good for me, and what kind of measurements around the different parts of my body would be the best look for me. And that's just a way to keep yourself accountable to yourself. Mm-hmm. And so that's the general concept of what we want to look for with measurements. It's about tracking your progress. So I've mentioned a lot of awesome stuff that you could check out. You can find all that stuff in our show notes on AdventFit.org. Just click on description and then click on the show notes and you could go to our website. And if you want to find our own personal social media accounts, you can go to mine on WayneJamel.com.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Woke. That's WHOKE.
And until next time, I'm Wayne Jamel.
And I'm C. Jeffrey White, and the C's for centimeters. Check your measurements, and we'll see you next week, folks.
If you enjoyed this episode, why don't you click the like button?
And the notification bell.
Ding!
And if you really liked it, please share this episode with someone close to you.
But before you do that, subscribe to AdventFit.
Exactly.